Welcome to our afternoon panel sessions. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our event co-sponsors, Woodmeister Master Builders and William Ravis. Our panel sponsors this afternoon are Bernadette Meyer of Sotheby's, Stonecraft, and our media sponsor is Modern Luxury Interiors. Our panel this afternoon is When a House Tells a Story, Harmonizing Design, Landscape, and Architecture, and it's my pleasure to introduce Abby Bielagus from Modern Luxury.
Hi. So nice to see everyone. Thanks for being here. So my name's Abby Bielagus. I'm the editor for 2 Modern Luxury titles. I do Boston Common Magazine, and then I also do New England Interiors. And a fun fact about me is that I just flew in a little while ago, and I was the only person on the airplane. So
Oh my God.
Right? I thought that this group might be like, oh, yeah, that happens all the time to us. So I feel very much like a VIP already. But I'm excited for this panel because these folks are super talented and so interesting. So I'm gonna have everyone go around and introduce themselves and then answer this question, which is there a building that you have totally fallen in love with, whether residential or commercial, and or one that continues to inspire you?
Ooh, what a question. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Catherine Olasky. I'm an interior decorator. I'm based in Houston, and I spend part of my time in New York as well. And the building that has most inspired me, or I should say changed my life, would probably be 39 Brook Street in Mayfair in London. It was the home of Colfax and Fowler for 72 years. And I visited the building in my 20s and I happened to go on a Friday afternoon, I won't ramble, and no one was there, and I sat in Nancy Lancaster's drawing room and I thought, if I ever leave New York, I'm coming here. And I did, and I moved to London, and I met my husband there, and I lived there for a long time, and so it was certainly a life-changing interior and place for me.
Wow.
That is a sophisticated answer. Pressure now. My name is Marcus Mohon. I'm from Austin, Texas, and my wife and I have Mohon Interiors. And the building that always comes to mind with this question, it's actually it's just a pavilion. Seaside, Florida. We started taking when our kids were small, we started taking them there, and it's the Pelican Pavilion. It's a classical round structure, sage green. It's one of the entrances to the beach with a pelican on top, and it always draws me back. And then we took our kids all over the world, and we went back this past summer now that they're grown, and we all took pictures in the Pelican Pavilion again. But I think the simplicity, the grace, and the classic proportions just make me always go back to there. I want to stay on a house with that street so I can walk through that pavilion to the beach.
Well, on that note, my name is Elizabeth Graziolo. I'm the founding principal of Bielagus Architects. We are based in New York City. We have a satellite office in Miami, Florida. The one building that I keep going to over and over again, it's a building I first was introduced to my 3rd year of architecture school at Cooper Union. It's the Bibliothèque Nationale de Paris by Henri Labrousse. I'm trying to say it the American way, but I can't really make the American accent.
Sounds better that way.
It's Henri Labrousse. I'm like, yeah. No, Henri Labrousse. So it was a building that was built in the late 1800s. What I love about that particular library is the fact that at the time, he was so forward-thinking. He was drawing principles from traditional architecture, but he was forward-thinking. He was celebrating steel work. It was this. The reading room is made out of these slender steel columns with these vaulted domes. Obviously, I like to think that he was inspired by the Pantheon, but I don't know, I wasn't there. Because the domes have these oculus that bring light in the library. It's just so peaceful and so grand. And even to this day, it feels so relevant. It feels so modern. And I think to me, it's very much kind of the dream of every designer to actually build something, rooted in traditional architecture, but being innovative about it, so it always feels kind of relevant. Yeah.
Beautiful.
My turn. I'm Eric Groft. I'm a landscape architect for Oehme van Sweden Associates. We're a 3rd generation landscape architecture firm in Washington, D.C. And I guess the project that inspired me and still inspires me, even though it's quite grand, I studied in the School of Architecture at University of Virginia, and I actually went there on my honeymoon. I've taken my kids there. Is Vaux-le-Vicomte. It's just about an hour outside of France. And the inspiring thing there is Nicolas Fouquet, the minister of France, who threw a party and invited the king and got thrown in jail on Monday morning. His
My kind of party.
It was an amazing party. But what he did was equalize architecture, interior, and landscape so that they all speak to each other and they were equally treated financially. Can you imagine that?
Well, that
We usually, if we get 10 or 15%, we're doing really well.
But didn't the king put him in jail so then he can hire his next
No,
team?
his team
That was like the
went
most
to
interesting
Versailles.
thing. Yes.
So Vaux came before Versailles.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Well, that's a perfect segue, obviously, for this panel's topic, which is when a home tells a story and harmonizing all the different parts, because obviously a story can't be told with one chapter alone, right? So it's architecture, it's interior design, it's landscape. They all contribute to this house's narrative. And I think sort of following that analogy, we'll start at the foundation to talk about how a house's tale gets told. So I'd love to start with Elizabeth and just ask you, when you are beginning a project, pretend I'm the client and we're starting, how would you explain to me what the importance is of bringing everyone in at the beginning?
I think one of the most important things as a client is like, as an architect, I will love to understand, the scope of work, and then also understanding who you are as a person. It's one thing I always feel like architecture school never taught you is psychology, because it plays such an important role. Because not only understanding the type of person you are and understanding the scope of work, but it will kind of like help me understand who I would like to recommend to you to bring in or to think about in terms of like the landscape architect, how important it is. Because as much as I would love to think that I know everything because I'm an architect, but really when it comes, for example, a single family home, understanding the siding of a home is so important as the onset of a project. I don't want to site it and then later on, 2 months later, and then Eric comes in and is like, oh my gosh, that's like the worst part of the site. No.
Why didn't you put it over there?
Exactly. I'm like, oh my God. So having, let's just say, Eric on at the very beginning, and actually we all having the conversation together, or Marcus or Catherine, in terms of the interiors, because the interiors are as important as just like the siding or just like the architecture part, because they actually explain the mood or the feel of the house. So I may be looking out to them to tell me what their vision is with the client, with you, in terms of like, what is this house supposed to be filling out? I mean, it's actually very interesting to have their input and there's Eric input, and then we all sit at the table and everybody at the beginning kind of feel kind of like, you kind of like have ownership of what the final vision is going to be. It's not just me.
So great. Can't you listen to her all day?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I feel like I'm...
Too often, we're brought in as landscape architects to fix problems.
Yeah.
And I often explain to the client, the sooner you get your team together and harmonize all of us, the better chance of success.
Yeah.
So everyone thinks of the house, and I want the kitchen to be next, like the family room, whatever. But it's the siding of the house that's where it really starts. The elevation, the views, the existing trees. It's all part of the formula.
And
But-
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say it's interesting you said the word kitchen, because even that, as an architect regarding the planning, it's like where I look at the kitchen. If the client wanted to have a vegetable, garden, to be able to have that conversation with Eric in terms of like how we're thinking can inform his work and my work.
And solar orientation then.
Yeah.
There's that equation. Where do you want to be sitting in the morning
For breakfast or
for breakfast, yeah.
So that sort of leads me to my next question, which I can direct to you, Eric, which is when you are beginning to integrate with the team and you're sort of brought in the beginning, what are some of the questions? I mean, you guys have just already said a couple, but what are some of the other questions that you ask, like right at the onset?
Well, I go through the ings, like cooking, swimming, eating.
That's great.
Yeah.
You just go through the activities that a family or a couple or whoever your client is, how do they live? Understanding how they live is probably the most important thing, and also getting a read of the land. Sometimes it's best to almost take your time. I like to start a ground up project on the site for a 24-hour period, so I can understand where the sun's rising, where it's setting, the shades and shadows of those moments. It's really important. It's a little hard to work that into my fees, but it's where I like to start.
Taking daily rate to the next level.
Yeah. And Marcus, once you begin and you're integrated in the team, how do you sort of all work together?
Well, I think one thing is to be able to have a line of communication apart from the client. I mean, for their good. If your goal is the client's best results, sometimes you have to talk offline so that we can either hash things out together, that we don't need to, if we disagree about something. But the other thing is to ask everybody, hey, what's your superpower? What is it that you love? What do you not love? So that there aren't gaps. Some architects hate millwork, hate plumbing. Some like to take it all the way through there. So we figure out where that baton gets handed off. I think the other thing that's important for us working together is to figure out, hey, how do you present things? I do watercolors for our presentations, and we're working for an architecture firm that has the full computerized 3D walkthrough. So we do it in conjunction with that, so that the client has this whole perspective from two different levels. And I think if you can make each other look good, it's better for the project.
That's huge. That's huge.
Well, it creates a cohesive product when all the players are on the same page at the beginning.
Yeah.
A huge part of it now, too, is the technology. And so making sure that all of my plans and spreadsheets you have and all of your plans that are up to date or have been updated, or even just the movement of a light fixture 6 inches affects what we do. So there is a merging of documents that happens on the back end as well.
It's like if you're cooking, which I don't, so this is a weird analogy, but if you bring something to a boil to get everybody's ideas out, and then when it simmers, that's when the best, whether that's my idea or your idea, it's best for the project.
And Catherine, when would you say is the right time? Or like, how do you know, sort of, as Marcus said, when or how to pass the baton? Like, do you have some sort of secrets to collaborative success?
I think that for me in my career, which I've embarrassingly been doing now for 25 years, the better I get at my job, the more I realize I cannot do your jobs. So I can do an electrical plan, I can do a lighting plan, I do all of these things. Is it better when it's come out of the architect's office and I edit it? Yes. Like, there are just certain ways that I think we are able to honestly enjoy the expertise of other professionals. And not have to do it ourselves. I mean, we always have clients who are like, "Oh, can't you just do the whole bathroom?" Well, no. Like, I mean, we need the plans. We need someone who's going to sit and draw out the tile layout. I love to spec the tile. I don't want to draw the plan of each piece. So it's really a delight to share the load with other professionals that you respect. Is really the
25
fun
years,
part about it.
Can I get your skincare regimen?
Yes,
Wow.
seriously.
I was going to say, to build upon what you said, I think it's really understanding what you're responsible for versus the other members of your team. I mean, I can go to Morocco and see something fabulous there, like the towels, like, oh my gosh, I want to use this in the bathroom. And I'll be like, oh my God, no, I should really check with Catherine. But it's that, but also having clear communication and be able to call Catherine and say, hey, I saw this amazing thing. Would you consider using it? Feel free to communicate with each other. Communication is so key that I think that really is a success of collaboration.
Yeah.
I think meeting as a team, as you said, offline, away from the client is just as important
Yeah.
as when you are with the client. Oftentimes we'll be recommended by the architect or the interior designer, so I always make sure we're presenting to you all first before we go to the client. So
That's so smart. Okay, now I want to hear some of the tea about things that have gone terribly wrong when there hasn't been, like you were all talking about, this wonderful communication and working as members of the team. Can you all just talk or speak to a project where none of this happened, and what was the catastrophe that resulted from that?
well, it can happen. Even though I said before, it never does. It can happen even with the team working together and coordinating their sets and everything. I mean, things happen. There's unknowns, there's subsurface conditions that I often have to inherit. But one of the biggest problems is just where the earth meets the building. And oftentimes, architects and engineers don't somehow get it wrong. And so, if you're veneering a house in stone, veneer it well into the earth to give me plenty of opportunity to play around with it. So it's a common mistake. I don't think it's ever resulted in a disaster.
Yeah. We don't have that problem.
Nobody here.
We don't. I mean, we foresee Eric's problem. Yellow House Architect always solve it.
I guess I should say, what are some projects you've heard about that have gone terribly wrong? Not yours, of course.
I think that things can really go wrong also when you're not being transparent about the status of your work in the project. So if we've agreed December 1st for a client installation, and the construction timeline is going long. This happens all the time, and it hasn't been communicated to the rest of the team. That can cause a lot of problems. Oh, we just thought you could push a week. Well, no, actually, we can't rebook in December. So it's just imperative, and I do think that is usually where, if there is tension on a job site, it's because there was a lack of communication. The thing that is so wonderful is that, we're all in the business of solving problems. That's, I think, 90% of what we do. So, a lot of times if someone's having an issue or a crisis or something's running late, I might have a resource that can help with that. So it is also why it's important from the get-go, from the initial drawings, long before ground has been broken, to just be developing the relationship so that then when you get to the end, things get tense, everyone's on a deadline, you've got this great camaraderie in place that smooths it over and makes it happen, and no one is the bad guy, and everyone can just sort of, again, pull together to make the best experience for the client so that they walk into a completed house that's cohesive and has been created the least stress for them.
Well, and open communication with the client too.
Right.
They are the ultimate
Absolutely.
User and paying our fees. I have inherited projects where there was a clear lack of communication when a landscape architect was communicating more with the team than they were with the client, and then there was a parting of the ways. So.
Oh, wow.
I have one that really did go wrong.
Okay, good.
I said for years, I've been in this for so long, I've never had any crazies, and that, I can't say that anymore. And it's the whole thing where the client, when we were siloed, it's the exact opposite of what we're talking about here.
Yes.
And the client, we were brought in after the fact, and they said, I don't like all this stuff the architecture firm did. Will you? And I didn't realize the architecture firm was still working on it. And then we changed this stuff without knowing it and without being introduced.
Wow.
And then, so we got in, and then they purchased all these things, and then went back to the architecture firm and said, I don't like what the designer did.
Oh my gosh.
And, but thank goodness all our contracts are buttoned up. I was like, sorry, you can't return everything. But we had to work through them through the full delivery of the product, because it was, and they had gone off. And so they kept pitting people against each other. And by the time we realized it, it was too late.
That's so odd.
It's tough.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah,
And bad.
it was really weird.
Really bad.
Yeah.
Crazies can create disasters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you
we're
have
going
any-
back to the clients, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then obviously, conversely, are there projects that you can just like dream team projects?
Oh my
that you've
gosh,
had?
dream team projects. Let's talk about those.
Yes.
I mean, the dream team projects are, I mean, I'm just thinking about when I'm clearly on a December installation mindset at the moment. But it was like, you know, we had an extra day. It was Christmas time. We called the landscape architect and said, can you just send over a tree? Can you send some garlands? And he, by at that point, he knew that we were just like in it. And he's like, sure, whatever. And a tree shows up and garland show, you know, and it's just like, it wasn't the actual landscape architect, but you know, it's again, using the resources, or the landscape architect calls and says, oh, I'm doing a photo shoot of the gardens. Can you send someone to set the table or do the tablescape? Or, of course, you know, and you just do those things because A, they're fun. It's kind of the fun part. It's not
Yeah.
like the trenches anymore. You're sort of out of that.
Yeah.
But also, it's just, again, enjoying the relationships that you've built. And anyway, those are just some surfacey examples. But
I love that though. I've
good.
never thought about how you guys could sort of, work together at the end for the photo shoot or for the photography and things like
because
that.
each one of us have such a network of suppliers
Right.
that, you know, I mean, and they might not really overlap.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really very rewarding.
Have you ever called a landscape architect to get your own tree?
No.
I need a tree.
No, it's more like when you're in a remote, you know, upper Connecticut or I don't know,
Yeah,
you know, some
yeah.
random place, and there's not a lot of, oh, I'll send someone to cut one down.
Yeah.
Right there. Anyway.
What about you, Marcus? A dream
Yeah,
team?
we actually had a dream project. It was a coastal hacienda on the Texas Gulf Coast. And we worked on it probably, how long did it take, Autumn? 8 years? And so the architect was from Austin, and we collaborated wonderfully. The client was wonderful. She knew what she didn't know. Extremely smart, amazing taste, listened and deferred to us often. And we all work together. It's called Hacienda Bendita, Blessed House. And it really is. And it keeps going. I just got word this week they're adding another building. It's a whole compound.
Wow.
And they've redone their daughter. They've been in the house 6 years, and we're working on the third version of the daughter's bedrooms.
Oh, lucky
You
gal.
gotta love that from a product standpoint. So just good people, good project, good team.
That's awesome.
We had on one project in Upper Greenwich, which was just behind me. We had bi-weekly meetings, the
Yes.
architect, interior designer, the contractor, and then the landscape contractor once we got on in installation. But just one anecdote, and you see the glass water wall came out of an amazing conversation we had. We had placed the pool with a 4-foot grade change on the deep end. I said, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a negative edge there? And when I have a negative edge like that, I like to place a fire feature at the bottom to get that beautiful reflection. And I think it was the architect said, well, if it's a water wall, why don't we make it solid glass? So that's what you see, and it's in my book that I'm going to be selling after this. But I think that's a good example of how a collaborative effort can really lead to something that the individual might not have thought of on their own.
Yeah, I just love the idea of being able to, like, I think you said, or Marcus said, knowing what you don't know and being open to input from other people and sort of having the ability in some ways to check your ego at the door and be like, I'm open to taking ideas and potential criticisms or critiques from other people. Like, that can be hard to do. So it is pretty amazing when that can happen for people that have been in the business so long and are experts in their field, right?
You also, I mean, you pick your battles too. I mean, if I have a beautiful bedroom with amazing windows, but there's no wall for a bed, I'm going to fight for that, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
or a wall for a sofa or something like that, which, you know, occasionally architects sort of bristle at to have to, you know, redo based on the furniture arrangement. But and then other things, I'm so happy to just fly with the group, you know. But I do think, as you say, Eric, I mean, just the ability to do the water wall depends on a trusting client. It's like, I can't even picture
Right.
what a glass wall is going to look like at my pool, but my team thinks it sounds amazing and I'm going to do it.
Right.
You know, so when that happens, I mean, that is when the magic happens.
Yeah.
Never
And as
assume, never assume that the client can't afford something.
Yeah.
That's true. That's also
What was your
very
dream
true.
project?
Yeah.
My dream project. Thank you, Marcus. Well, yeah. There's one particular project since I started the company 5 years ago. We've been kind of like working on. It's a project we're doing for a special client. Hopefully, I think they might be in the audience. But anyways, down in Palm Beach. What makes it so special is the fact that the interior designer on the team is Sally Kimball, and we always meet with her team first, my team and her team. We actually work out all the problems. We even down to the furniture, what she's thinking of selecting for the room, and the architecture. We work it out together, and then when we have the client, the design presentation, we present as a unit.
That's awesome.
And we've been doing the project in phases, and it's like one of the most beautiful projects I've worked on because it's so cohesive, and we just like, this is the second project we're doing with her team. We've done work with Julie Hillman similarly, where we actually work with the team first. For Palm Beach, we do have a landscape architect, but he goes rogue, so it's fine. We deal with him, but most of the time it's fine.
It's not me.
Yeah. This is sort of a potentially boring, nitty-gritty question, but I'm curious what you all think is the right amount of meetings. Like, because someone mentioned bi-weekly. What do you think is sort of the right amount of meetings to have
That's
with
a
the
tough
team?
question.
It sort of depends on the phase of the project, I think. I mean, sometimes it's once a week, sometimes it's once a month. Don't you think?
Well, and Zoom has certainly changed the
everything.
world too. So
Yeah.
that collaboration I was speaking of was pre-COVID, pre-Zoom, and so I was taking the train up to Connecticut every other week, and that was that ate up a lot of fee.
Yeah.
So
If they like to meet at 5 o'clock and we can have wine, we can meet
Perfect.
a couple of times
can
a
meet
week.
every day.
If they want to come in the morning, I want to see you once a month.
Yeah. That's such a good answer. Yeah.
I think Catherine is right. I think it depends on the phase of the project. So design development, I like to meet with the interior team at least once a week in anticipation of meeting with the client every couple of weeks. So, and then once you pass that phase, it's like, okay, just leave us alone. We'll go build the project, and then we'll be in touch when we need you.
Nice.
it can be difficult
Yeah.
because all of our clients are really busy.
Yes,
With
exactly.
their businesses, their families, and it's scheduling them can be, and getting them to dedicate the time that they need to give is an important obstacle.
Yeah. One trick we do in our firm is, so once we sign up, we understand the scope of work, we understand the schedule, more or less the ideal schedule. We do this thing where we kind of like develop a preliminary design development project schedule. So we will tell them, hey, based on the scope of work, based on this project, we're gonna need to meet you for every 2 weeks for the next 3 months, and those are the dates, or at least the week of. Please coordinate with our team, let's set up time. So once you tell them that, it's about the expectation. If they can kind of like pre-schedule it for 2 months, we're gonna be meeting with Yellow House every 2 weeks, and then that's it. It actually worked. It actually worked really well for us.
That's a really good, I feel like setting expectations in general is always a good rule of thumb, right? Okay, for our last question, I'd love to know, obviously we all have to collaborate in our own lives to tell our own narratives. So I'm just wondering what you've taken away in, sort of life lessons from working as part of a team in the industries that you are in.
Life lessons. Well, I mean, I sort of said this earlier, but I do think it's just appreciating everyone's various skill sets. I don't know that, I've had the privilege of working with wonderful architects, so I don't know that I always appreciated the value of a lighting designer. And when you work with the right one, the light bulb goes off, haha, pun intended. The light bulb goes off, and you just think, oh my goodness, how did I not know that this was such an amazing resource? So the life lesson for me is not just incorporating all the parties, but also finding the right parties for you that sort of speak your language, help you produce the look that is your aesthetic. I think that's been just a sort of general, broad appreciation lesson for me.
For me, it goes back to one of the things I had to grapple with when we started the business. We have family that does medical relief work overseas, and here we're decorating. And so, but if you look at it, I go back to, if you look at ancient philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, they linked everything to goodness, beauty, and truth. It helps link us to our earth and where we are. And when you're surrounded by beauty, you see things differently, and you think differently, and you behave better. And so I think that if you can surround yourself with beautiful things, it can elevate your lives. That's why we work with a lot of families with kids, and I say that style, beauty, and practicality are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with my house full of boys when they were little and teenagers, and then grown men out of the house now.
Yeah.
And but it's always to surround them with beauty so that they think in an elevated way.
I love that. Yeah.
Okay, I love beauty as well, but I think that was a really, really good question, and I really took some time to think about it. And I think for me, it's about communication, right? Like the way to be able to communicate with like the team in a professional way, and then also understanding how to navigate each other in terms of like be able to be able to express yourself without like stepping into somebody's toes. So I think that's same in terms of like home and understanding how to better communicate.
Yeah.
But it's also it's also about listening, right? Because you can talk all day, but if you're not listening, it doesn't matter. So it's also about like listening about like what they are seeking, who wants more attention, who wants this from mommy.
Yeah.
It's about like really balancing that within your family and also balancing that at work.
Yeah, it's funny, as you all were talking, there is this through line that you have to obviously know your client and know their psychology a little bit. And so y'all could sort of be therapists in a way, I feel. I'm sure you must feel that at
that's
times.
definitely therapy. Therapy is part of what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
90% therapist, 10% design.
Yeah.
I guess my life lesson would be hang in there and appreciate what we do. It's not easy. We're dealing with some really difficult people. But I have to think back to my time in architecture school when Dan Kiley, who's probably the most famous modernist landscape architect of the 20th century, came to give a talk at UVA. And he said, I want you to understand that you've chosen a profession that yes, you're slogging through 7.5 years of school, but he said that a doctor and a lawyer is going through that same process, and yet they're setting themselves up for a career where people come to them with problems, or they're sick, like really bad problems, and you've chosen a career where you will be creating beauty. And people come to you when they want to do something positive.
That's
that keeps
Love
it
that.
going.
Yeah. That's
Bravo.
really amazing.
There's nothing more rewarding than the client walking in at the end of the project and shedding a tear about how they could have never imagined it being as wonderful and beautiful, and just the excitement of getting to live there. And that is what makes it all worthwhile.
I did a senior housing project with Graham Gund outside of Cleveland, Ohio. And it was in a very conservative area where these people were retiring, and in all the homes, the beautiful homes, but it was all like the ocean of lawn and the parsley around the turkey, very, very conservative landscape architecture-wise. And you can see from my work, we like to loosen things up a little bit. And I gave a talk there a couple of years later, and an older woman came up to me and said, "I didn't want to move here. Your landscape scared me."
Oh, wow.
And my husband talked me into it. But they said, "Eric, I want you to know every morning I wake up, I run to the window to see what's blooming, what's moving in the wind, and what's attracting birds and butterflies." And that's when I knew we had done something positive.
Wow, I love that. Well, so we have about 10 minutes left if anyone would like for questions. Yeah, in the back. And there's going to be a mic brought to you, just so you know.
Hey. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it on? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm just curious, since you all are the best in your fields and you all require each other to bring so much professionalism into your team, what happens when you have an idea and it's within your own wheelhouse of this is your expertise to bring, but you don't know how to engineer it, but you're still under the scope of I have to nail it so it's perfect, even if it's the first time I've ever done it, but you can't ask the team that you've been assigned with how to do it because they don't know. Where do you turn to figure it out? Is it Google?
My founding partner said this early in my career, never be afraid to make the big mistake.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
You know, be bold. If you have a good idea, don't hold back. You know, speak your mind. Get it out there.
It's usually in my part of this world, which is the decorating, it's usually the tradesmen who are creating the item who will throw down the gauntlet and say, look, you know, these are our limitations. They'll think it through. Again, just depending on the professionalism of the people who are creating the items.
I have 3 buddies who are pretty well-known architects that are, these 4 couples travel together. And they're Starchitects, and they're all amazing, and I call them. Because we're friends, you know.
Well,
I would just
knowing
figure
your
it out.
knowing your resources,
Yeah.
like that, and we all have networks
Right.
that we're meeting at events like this and other professional events. So using that network is a really important. Know when to call in somebody else and get an opinion.
As an architect, they will all call me, but I would just say, if there is a brilliant idea, you just have to be savvy, I think, and kind of reach out to your network. And we're doing a project currently in Iowa. I mean, I didn't even know where McGregor, Iowa was. But it's one of those things, we have this vision, but also understanding who's available there, what the skill set, how we're gonna bring this, dream into realization, and speaking with the client rep and saying, listen, hey guys, we may wanna bring somebody from Germany here to help us with this. And then be able to feel comfortable to actually throw out those ideas. I mean, they were like, hey, you guys are crazy. This is gonna be too much money. But at least pick up and kind of see where you can kind of filter and be able to get the help that you're looking for.
Yeah, right here.
I have a question. It may not have happened to you, but what happens if you're working on a project and you go really over budget? And I'm sure you have very...
Oh, never.
Never at all.
What budget?
What kind of dialogue do you have with the client when that happens?
I think you have to have the dialogue before you get to the point.
Yeah.
When you see that coming, don't wait till the car hits you. If it's way off careening, have the conversation early. Rip the Band-Aid off. If you wait, it gets more awkward. So I think, and you have to give them permission to go over budget and continually show them things that are in budget and always remind them, this wasn't in the budget. And Mr. Budget says no, but if you want to say yes, it's okay. But I think if you continually wave that flag, gently, with knowing the client, some want it in their face, some don't want to hear about it at all. But I think it's a matter of bringing it up before you get to the point where it has gone over.
I think that it should happen early on. I mean, we go through a master planning process where I like to explain that it's our responsibility as landscape architects to realize the potential of the site. You might not do everything at once, and then translating that to them so they can make the decision of, okay, this is phase 1, this is phase 2, and maybe we won't ever get to that dreamscape. But having that conversation early on, and then listening to them and adhering to the budget after that is important. I don't like to take on a project where they say, I'm only going to spend this amount. I think that really limits us as designers in the beginning. It's all an educational process. A lot of our clients they might know how much your kitchen costs, okay? Everyone seems to clue into some things like that, but a lot of people have no idea what a landscape, how much a pool's gonna be, how much the driveway could possibly be. So, I really encourage clients to let us dream a little bit and explain what things cost, and they set their own budget.
We're still learning. Ideally, we'll do it before, and we're trying to do better. But most of the time, it seems like we actually, to your point, we realize we were over budget, and it's kind of like, and you have to kind of like backtrack. It does happen. We try our best to not let it happen, but on the occasion that it happens, it's a matter of like going, actually have like a frank conversation with them, because they are smart people. They understand where we start. They know where we are. It's like, okay, I will take responsibility that I should have, raised a flag, but at the end of the day, we are both in a place where ideally we both love what this is. And I will take responsibility. Me and my team will be like, okay, well, I'll give you a discount on this. But at the end of the day, I think as an artist and a visionary, we really love to kind of like get the vision out there. And most of the time, I think most of our clients, we've been very lucky. They've been very responsive in terms of like, okay, well, they'll meet us halfway kind of thing. It's not best practice by any means. We're trying to do better, but it does happen.
Hi. Okay, I have a question. How are you guys? You're an amazing panel. A lot of people in the industry are talking about the next generation, and I'm sure many of you work for multi-generational families. What are the trends, and how are you guys keeping up with the technology and sustainability that the next generation, totally influenced by influencers? How do we come up with what they're going to want, and building and designing and landscape architect for the next gen?
One thing I think that good design principles last. If you look at some of the greenest materials out there, there are things that have been used for hundreds of years. So part of it is eschewing the trends. You say, we're not going to go full trend, but you also have to understand them. We have a lot of young clients lately, and that's why I have a young staff. And we have just had our first client referred this week by AI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's getting into. I'm still trying to figure out how to get AI a bottle of wine and say thank you. But it is a matter of moving on and using the tools. A good friend of mine, an architect who's originally from Alabama, lives in New York now, and he said, it's just us old people that want to be in print only. You have to do it all. Yeah. You have to do print, digital, AI. I mean, it's a whole new world, and I think you just have to continually research.
I still like when a client comes to me with a stack of magazines
Love
that
it.
are all dog-eared to one of our projects.
That's my kind of client.
Yeah, God, don't you love it?
Love
and
it.
then you have all the homework's done.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
AI,
I think
I'm
I
curious
would
how
say-
AI recommended a client. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, how do you do that?
How did AI?
ChatGPT.
Well, for a while, Autumn called ChatGPT Bernard Olivier. And so I was thinking, she's having this affair with somebody named Bernard. So maybe she's been courting AI. I don't know. I'm joking. We don't know. I think they just put in what they were after.
And it matches.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've during COVID, when you couldn't meet in person, we got several projects with people just looking online
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and,
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah. Instagram's our primary
Yeah.
feed
Wow.
these days.
Yeah.
But as far
But
as
also-
back to the multi-generational thing, I mean, I think there's nothing better than someone inheriting their family's house of antiques, because there's nothing more sustainable than antiques. And there's obviously ways to reinterpret things or paint them or reupholster or give, I mean, I don't know if many of you heard the panel this morning about textiles. I mean, textiles can change everything. So I think it's the people who are actually interested in reinventing maybe things that they've inherited is always a very fun project for me.
I go with Marcus in terms of like hiring young people. It's very much like very important to us in my firm that we go to this career fair every year. We actually make a point of like, you know, we have like certain school in our radar where we go and hire young interns and young kids. So I remember last year I went to Cooper Union, which is where I went to school, and this kid asked me, "What's your, program with that sustainability design?" I'm like, "I don't know, but you wanna come and tell us?" And this seriously, and I'm like, I wanna hire him and her. You guys can come in, you teach me. I'll teach you how to be an architect, but you guys gonna teach us what it's like to be able to to have like this forward-thinking, innovative way of seeing different materials and how we can use it. So I look up to young people.
Agreed.
Yeah.
As long as they understand, I like to tell, particularly if we hire an entry-level person,
Yeah.
the most important thing for you to know is what you don't.
No, exactly. Agreed.
Okay? If they know Revit,
Yes.
you're hired. but please, learn from someone that's been around for a
Skills
while.
from us.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to come into an office.
Yes.
There was one more question over here. I thought, yeah.
Hi, I'm just curious, when you start a new project, a new construction, and you've got this fantastic integrated design team with an architect, a designer, a landscape architect, who leads the conceptual design? Do you feel like the landscape is dictating the concept? Do you feel like it's the architect? Can you speak to a little bit of like, you're starting with a fresh palette, who's taking the lead?
I think
That's a very good
it's the
question.
architecture.
Yeah. I feel like as an architect, we're kind of like, we're like, we're like,
Sleeping on the job site, but
exactly.
Sorry.
Sorry. Eric. I feel like we kind of like, like the leader of the orchestra. We need to understand it, we may not know how to play every instrument, but we need to know about them, because at the end of the day, it's all about coordination and kind of like understanding when to cueing the next person to create this kind of like that perfect symphony. I mean, that's what goes in my head. But yeah.
Convince me otherwise.
Yes,
Come on.
Eric.
I mean, no, seriously.
Give me a minute. Okay. I think the dialogue between landscape architecture and the land and architecture starts with us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, and yes, you're in charge of the architecture. It's rare when it doesn't really happen where I'm telling you exactly where to put the front door or the style of the house. That's your, then we take the clues from what you guys produce. But the siding of the house, I think, is really important. That's a dialogue, and that starts the creative and the collaborative process.
Yeah. I think as the architect, we really are the coordinators. It's like understanding, okay, when do we have the conversation with Eric? When do we bring Marcus in? Or when we know when it's time for us to really start talking with Eric or Catherine and kind of like put everything together. But so this is also, by the way, this is kind of like a little bit of the team, because then you have like the whole layer of engineering, which is the not so fun stuff, but you really need it as part of the house. When do we bring the lighting designer in, the builder? The builder actually is one of the most important player, actually, who should be sitting at the table at the beginning, because based on the scope of work and the timeline, they can better tell us, oh my gosh, Marcus, you wanna do this tile from, I don't know, from where? There's like a 6-month lead time. When is this project needs to be done? So I think having the builder also at the table is also key,
100%.
as well as speaking of geotechnical engineer, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm like going all technical now, but it's like they need to kind of drill holes and tell us, oh, where Eric wants to see the site, the soil there doesn't work. Sorry, Eric. So then we may have to move on to someplace else. So there's a lot of other players who are not sitting here who are very much important as part of the team at the onset.
We have 5 minutes, so maybe we could do one more question. I think I saw one right here.
So Eric, do you find that you've changed your palette of materials very much over the years? And I guess you have a specific site that you're working with and a specific style house. And so all those different things come into play when you start, choosing your palette and all that kind of thing.
Well, it certainly changes with the geography, wherever you are, whether we're down in Washington or I'm out in east end of Long Island or here in Nantucket. And there has been a big push over the years, to use native-only plants, which I find to be a little limiting. And my founding partner, Wolfgang, was the first. He moved to this country in the 50s because of his love of native plants. So it's something that we like to take at least partial credit for. So that is certainly a trend and a worthy trend. It's just knowing when to alter it depending on the client's needs and the needs of the site.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I think that's it for us. Thanks, everybody. This was great, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Abby, and to our panelists. And as Eric mentioned, we have some books for sale. If you want to learn more about Marcus or Eric, books are available in the lobby. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.